Welcome to Oink Time Podcast. I'm Jen Carnivale.
I'm Ben Elwood.
And this is a podcast where we chat to other Sydney comedians or international comedians.
Or just interesting people.
Yeah, all right, just interesting people. It's usually comedians. Basically, we get a word and we rip it apart and indulge in it for about an hour. So do listen in. If you want to tweet at us, you can find us at oinktimepod, or you can contact us oinktime@gmail.com. Let us know if you have any words for our hat. This podcast is, of course, produced by our wonderful producer, Sean.
Yeah.
Check out Sean's podcast, In Brackets, with Sean Allen.
And guys, please, if you can take a minute or two just to rate and review us on iTunes, that would be muchos appreciated. It gets new listeners and new oinkers into the sty with us.
Oh, God. Sounded so gross. And lastly, we have to thank Young Henrys. They've been sponsoring the podcast. Thanks heaps, Young Henrys. Now you get to listen in to us talk about death.
With Andrew Hastings. The funniest freak out I ever saw, I won't say who it is, but I went with a mutual friend of ours.
Yeah,
to go
I know
and
exactly who you're talking
to
about.
go and see a double feature of Commando and Predator.
Great.
Not even my kind of movies, but it's like, whatever, we'll get wasted and we'll go and see it in the big cinema at the Orpheum. It'll be fun. And he'd never had edibles before.
Yeah.
And he had, and you know, I'm always very kind of like, just have the smallest amount, because you can always have more. You can't take this back.
Yeah.
And he did that fucking, you know, alpha dog thing that so many dudes do, where they're like, oh, yeah, whatever, I can fucking handle it. And like 25 minutes into the movie, I stood up to go and take a piss, and he just like grabs my thigh and he's like, you can't leave me. You can't leave me alone. Yeah, I fucking told you.
None of that seems like fun.
Well, I feel like if you're going to go, but it's like any kind of substance abuse, you almost have to, if you're going to commit to it and not be some teetotaling straight edge, you have to reckon with and deal with the downsides. Like, I'm not a drinker.
You have to be a responsible drug
Well, no,
user.
you like to drink.
I do.
The reason I don't like to drink is because it makes me feel nauseous and I want to die in the morning. And that's never.
You don't have to drink that much, Betty.
No, but even a small amount makes me feel like that.
I don't. I'm suspicious of your impulse control with that sort of thing.
What do you mean?
I'm saying if you're like, can you have 2 beers? Is that a thing you can do?
Absolutely. I don't like.
Right,
No, absolutely.
I cannot
No. See, alcohol. No. Because like for me, alcohol. Like I grew up where I grew up. Drinking was such a part of the culture from the age of like 14.
Yeah.
And my high school friends used to do this like.
We're from the same place, by the way.
Well, yeah, not everyone knows that. We're from the northern beaches of Sydney.
And, you guys.
Yeah. And there's a lot of kind of like, you know, fake alpha dog bullshit in
I'm
that
the only
area.
person of the earth here.
Where are you from?
The inner west.
They're from the fucking long hot summer, baby. I can't think of 2 people that would the least fit into the northern beaches. But anyway, I was surrounded by like a real hardcore drinking culture, and it was dudes that were like, they used to play this game called Skull Till You Spew.
Hell yeah.
Oh, fun.
Where it was literally just like, fucking just skull till you fucking puke everywhere.
I figured what it meant.
Well, all right. And we used to have this friend that we called Tutankhamun, because every time he drank till he spewed, he'd pass out and he'd make a perfect pyramid of vomit. So he was like the pyramid builder. But for me, that was such a gross kind of notion to get that drunk all the time that it was repellent to me, alcohol. And then the very first time I did get drunk, I got paralytic drunk off half a bottle of Bombora.
But I think that's kind of common. The first time people get drunk,
Yeah.
they get like grotty.
Yeah. And then
I clogged my mate's sink the first time I got like drunk. I like clogged it up. Yeah.
I woke up in my underwear and then had to get home from the Northern Beaches back to Neutral Bay, and it's like an hour and a half on the bus. And I've never, like, of all the partying I've ever done in my life, I've never felt that dog shit in my entire life. And then when I got home, as soon as I lay down, I got like the flip book reminiscings of what had happened the night before.
I know, it's
And I
gross.
remembered that I'd walked up to the girl that I liked and grabbed her on the tit and gone like, I'm in love with you. And it was just like I've never been that drunk ever again in my life.
Yeah.
Like I've only ever been tipsy. I can't.
See, I'm cool when I drink. I'm like a cool drunk.
You're not a fucking cool
I'm a
anything.
cool drunk.
It's so
You're a
cute
cool
that you
nothing.
think you're a
I'm
cool
cool.
drunk.
You're like
What
you're
the
like
fuck?
what? You're like a minute from 30, and the fact that you're saying I'm a cool
cool,
drunk
dude.
is so
Hey,
lame.
you guys.
I'm a cool drunk, man. I
I'm
drink
a
craft
cool
beer.
drunk.
Drink that small batch bourbon.
How
know what
old
I'm
are you
talking
now?
about. 28, like next month.
Do you still like measure your worth in terms of coolness or bodacious?
I can answer
No.
this for him. Yeah.
No,
does.
not
No,
at
you do.
all.
You totally
Absolutely
do.
not.
Andy.
If I was trying to be cool,
Be honest.
Think about it. If I was trying to be cool, how fucking bad a job would I be doing?
You're trying to be cool, but you're trying to be cool for a specific demographic
Yeah,
of
that's
women
right.
that you know you can dick.
Yeah.
All right, maybe. All right, yeah. Fair enough.
This hair is not for you.
You think
This is for the women.
You think this is the first time an emo has claimed to be an individual? Like, no, I'm independent. I'm a free thinker, dude.
Do you, because I've questioned you about this before, do you have some kind of long-term plan? Because you're not pulling off this fucking
Yeah, no, I
rose
know.
chest tattoo emo shit
No, I know.
in your 40s. It's going to be just sad.
Yeah.
So is there some kind of, like, what are you going
I'm
to do?
so glad you asked me this, Ben.
Yeah,
2-word plan.
Yeah.
Goth cowboy.
Is that really? Are you going to become one of those, like,
Maybe.
rockabilly guys?
No, not a rockabilly dude. Like I want to be like Nick Cave has like a goth cowboy
Please
vibe.
don't say that you're anything
No, I'm nothing like
resembling
him.
Nick
No,
Cave.
not at all. I'd be the shitty teenage version, even when I'm 45. No,
I
I'm
love
saying,
that
he's
you've
got
got a
like
plan for
not,
this.
not the way he dresses, but like he's got that vibe.
You have to look at
Of course, I fucking
I
planned
have to
for
say,
this.
like,
this is all I have, Jen. This is all I am. This is all I ever will be.
When I think of you, I don't think of long-term planner, but I was wrong.
I don't think he long-term plans about anything in his life.
No,
other than-
except
No, this is a bailout strategy. It's
Yeah,
not a
yeah,
plan.
yeah.
It's not progression.
Is the fact that tattoo removal technology coming along in leaps and bounds like a relieving
No,
fact for you?
I'm gonna
Why
get.
are you going after his tats?
No,
It's a lot of tattoos.
no. So the plan is
You
I'm gonna.
sound like such an old man. I mean, what's he gonna do? Like, how's he gonna get a proper job with
you
all
have a
those
do you have a tattoo?
tattoos? No.
Yes, you do. I just suddenly remembered where it is.
No,
You told me years ago. I haven't seen it, but you told me where it is.
Anyway,
It's on her ankle. It's
Oh,
on
yeah.
it's on my wrist. And if
I'm
a
a
man
total-
sees it, I have to cut my arm off.
I'm a clean skin. I could not even imagine getting a tattoo.
Still trying to get in that grandma cemetery.
Oh, the Jew cemetery.
Yeah.
I mean, he cremated.
Ew.
No, I don't. I get bored of images on my wall after a couple of months. I couldn't imagine liking any icon enough to
It is
want to
interesting,
burn
the way-
it into my skin.
The way I think about it is like it's just you don't think about it as a piece of art you have to look at. It's just what you look like now. Do you know what I mean? Like I regret a lot of my tattoos. I think a lot of my tattoos are shitty and bad, but it doesn't bother me because also I don't like my nose. So like, why would it bother me that I don't like a small mark on my wrist? Why it's like a birthmark. Who cares? It's just another flaw. Like,
birthmark
Just an
shaped like
expensive birthmark in the shape
and
of
you
an
can get them
avocado.
covered up and whatever. Covering up's easier than removal anyway. If you get enough tattoos as well, the specific tattoos don't matter. You're just seen as tattooed.
Yeah.
No one's going,
Yeah.
oh, what's that bird on his ankle? It's going, oh, he's just a dude who's got a lot of tattoos.
See,
I'm not on that level yet, but that's the long-term plan.
I'm from that
regret.
generation where it's like, if you were going to get a tattoo, it's like, oh, well, it better be something fucking important.
Yeah, fuck that.
Or with meaning or whatever.
Every
just
tattoo I
something.
regret is one that has significance. Oh, that's not true, but the ones I regret the most.
Anything with meaning he
No,
hates.
the
I like
ones
to keep
Anything
it light.
significant in my life, I profoundly regret.
No, it's any tattoo. The more significant tattoos are definitely the one. There's none that I have significance to me that I don't regret.
What's the one that you regret the most?
Oh, the one on my wrist. It's
What is it?
Can I see it?
Yeah.
What is that?
It's a feather.
It's a gum leaf.
That's a feather.
I know, but
It
that's not
looks
why
like,
I
the
regret it.
Forrest Gump feather.
Yeah. It was a matching.
gum leaf,
Me and a friend had matching tattoos, and
Was this person abusive to you?
let's not
I think I know who it is.
I know who it is too.
Yeah.
You guys
Some would describe.
You guys
it that
got
way.
gum leaves?
Yeah, we did.
What is the significance of the gum leaf?
Home among the
When
gum
we
trees.
were like, it was just like a running joke between us when we were like 18.
Yeah, gum leaves are pretty funny.
Yeah. I was a funny dude.
You've really cornered the market on gum leaf
So
humor.
that's the one you really...
That's one I regret more than any of them.
That's teeny. Can I have a look? That's
Yeah,
like...
I'm just going to get it covered up eventually.
No, but it's always in his line of sight. As well.
Why don't you just
Couldn't
get it
forget
blacked out? You know how people get tats where it's
Yeah.
just literally
Oh,
a block of...
I'm going to do my other arm. This arm's pretty much bare. I'm going to do a full sleeve eventually for this one. So.
My friend just got into
does have
tattoo
plans.
removal.
Yeah.
She's
Good
got
investment.
She's got her own. Oh man, it's going to be like $1 billion industry. The entire economy of
growing
the
already.
future will revolve around regret. But yeah, she's making a fortune.
Yeah, man.
It's actually pretty effective. They just dissolve the ink under the skin.
Technology's getting better all the time as well. It fucking hurts, but apparently. I don't think, because I don't, like, tattoo removal only makes sense to me if you can't cover it up or you've only got one and you really don't want to have any. Like, it's so much easier for me to just get it covered up with some other dumbass tattoo. Who cares?
Yeah, well, you just
I'll
sound
never, I'll never be untattooed again. You can't get that much laser. Like, I'll never be able to get rid of all of them.
You just burn your
You
skin
know that
off.
guy at Mona? He's like a very heavily tattooed man, and he's sold his skin to Mona after he dies.
Gross.
Why is that gross? He's like a living work of art. So when he dies,
Man,
they're just going to skin
leather
him.
wallets.
Yeah, yeah. They're just going to skin this guy
yeah,
and
you're
hang.
right. Yeah,
But
fair
it's
enough.
skin. It's
It's just skin.
It's just skin. Yeah, we should just make everything out. Why don't we make lampshades out of it?
Well, they did.
In fact,
I wouldn't go down
someone
that
had
path.
a good idea back in the day. He was right. It's just skin.
But he's not making like household items out of his skin. They're going to like frame his skin.
So doesn't it bother
I
you?
don't have to be fucking into it. It's disgusting.
Doesn't it bother
Love
you that what we're doing is basically what Ed Gein did, but with cows? Doesn't that bother you?
No.
We're doing this. We're making couches out of fucking skin. How is that different?
Because we've always
How is it
used...
that
I
different?
understand the main difference.
How is it that different?
I understand there is one fairly
How is the
significant-
leather industry
But I'm saying,
different
like-
to Ed
I'm saying,
Gein?
like, the leather industry is bad, and we're so like it's
Because
still
we've
pretty
always
gross. Like,
always
everything's
used
bad.
animals
Everything's
and
bad.
animal
But,
skin
like-
and animal meat to survive for one
Totally.
reason or another, to keep warm or for comfort of some kind
Sure.
or another. It's not that far of a reach when you look at history.
But I'm not making an ethical argument right now. I'm saying that it's kind of gross that we sit on dead cow skin. That's kind of gross,
Mate,
right?
go for cotton if that's what your issue is.
Cotton doesn't have the greatest history either.
I mean, they're not using
All
cotton
right,
from the
just sit on the
17th century.
floor.
That's not the cotton in the couch now, man. Your cotton's kind of all right.
Look, you have to if you are going to exist in this culture without going insane. You
Yeah.
basically have to reconcile yourself to the fact that it's all gross. And
Yeah, you're right. Those Southern
you're-
Bells did need those pillows. You're
Yeah,
right.
well, no, just the whole thing. Like you're participating in a system that is, I don't want to bang
Oh,
on
no,
about
you're
it because I
absolutely
sound like an
right,
old
yeah.
hippie. But that's why I don't.
Suicide nets, owning iPhones. That's
Yeah, all of
fucking
it.
argument, yeah.
It's like that's why I get so pissed off with those people that it's like, they carry around the fucking, the non-plastic bag, going one less plastic bag or
Yeah,
whatever.
man.
Like, oh, come on, man.
Yeah, but you can't say that shit because you are the same person who says the world is going to end and we're all fucked, but you refuse to cut up your food on a plastic fucking chopping board because you think it's going to kill you and give you cancer.
Yeah, I don't want the bits of plastic in my
so
fucking
it's
food. What's wrong with that?
Because it's like
How is that exactly the same?
Because it's whinging and holding onto a tiny little thing that you think is making a difference.
No, but it's making a difference to me.
The illusion.
But
of
this is
me.
making a difference to them.
No, but I don't.
So,
go-
like, what plastic don't you want in your food? You want the residue from the chopping board?
He won't chop things up on plastic.
But not for environmental reasons, because you don't want the plastic in your food.
No,
He wants
what's
to live
plastic in
around-
my
That's
food?
psycho. What the fuck are you
That's
talking
not.
about?
How is that fucking
What
psycho?
What plastic is getting into your food?
When you cut, why are we talking about this? When you cut on a thin plastic chopping board that was
Sure.
like $3 at fucking Kmart,
Yeah.
when you put the knife through it, there's a fucking divot that goes in the thing, and so
Yeah.
where is the plastic going if not in your food?
How Ben
It's-
is so concerned with nutrition. We always argue about his diet. It's hilarious.
You're the one that told me that I make you eat better because I eat so healthy all the time.
I don't.
Yeah,
think,
you do make me eat better sometimes.
I'm a pretty good
I
eater.
don't think the microscopic shavings of plastic that are. I don't think that's what's going to be the issue. I
For
think,
Ben,
well, for anyone really, but sure, I meant broadly. But
It's just a byproduct of a head that likes to catastrophize. And so if it wasn't the shards of plastic, it would be something else.
Right.
When I was in Japan, I was convinced that I was eating fish that had come from Fukushima and I was probably going to get fucking lymphatic cancer or something.
who hurt you, man?
I don't know. I was
some
talking
stuff
about,
buried deep.
well, it's like, we might have talked about this before, but someone, do you believe in like epigenetics and like genetic memory and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff?
No.
You don't believe in that?
No.
Really?
Genetic memory, absolutely not.
Well, the theory is, if you're looking at like, for example, Jews
Continue.
the reason that there's that stereotype about Jews are really anxious and always looking over their shoulder
That's
and
not
stuff.
genetic memory, though. That's cultural experience. That's a cultural thing passed down, not a genetic thing.
No, it's not. I was
No,
not
it's-
taught to be anxious and fucking look over
Not
my
directly,
shoulder. Yeah, exactly.
but by behaviors.
No, but if you
No,
look,
but mental
around you.
illness, they say, is hereditary, and anxiety is mental illness.
And
And,
you-
that's a result of their lived
Right.
experience.
So you're saying that there is an anxiety gene.
yeah, fuck yeah.
Completely.
And especially
mental
if you
illness
look,
is hereditary.
Maybe.
especially if you look at a race of people who
don't know
have
about
been, genocided multiple times over the course of thousands
Yeah,
of years.
absolutely.
The people that survived were the people that were like, oh no, something's going down. Let's get out of here. And you can't tell me that doesn't then pass on into the.
course it
Also, it
does.
seems like too quick a timeline and too small a scale for evolution, but like, couldn't that could be passed down culturally so easily? Just
Yeah,
in
but there's
terms of
heaps of
behaviour
shit
and-
where this is depressing, but there's like heaps of stuff where women, a lot of people want to foster or adopt newborns because they think they won't get any of the shit that's happened. But there's all these studies that show trauma happens in the womb.
Like in utero trauma.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. So like a lot of damage is already done, which makes sense. If your mother is like drunk or abused or like fucking angry or raging, you know what I mean? It's
So,
going to
Of course.
soak in.
She's building your, your form.
She's
And
connecting
also
the dots.
evolution, and it actually doesn't take that long. I mean, it takes long in terms if you're looking at a human time scale.
Right.
But it's not that long. Like,
2,000 years.
have you heard of those experiments they were doing with domesticating foxes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
maybe.
They're
so
really
it's like,
interesting.
they get a fox, they pick out the most submissive ones, they breed those.
Yeah.
And it's something it's something absurd.
I guess that
it's like 3 or 4
they're
generations.
puppies.
And the fox suddenly have floppy ears and they've got dog markings and
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
completely submissive and tame. That's within 3 or 4
So
generations.
what you're saying is there is an inherent genetic flaw with the Jews, and there should be, and that you should,
something needs to be done to
there should be
fix
some sort
this
of solution
genetic
for
abnormality.
this.
Yeah, I don't know.
no.
Like, I mean,
Ben,
who knows?
Eugenics, Elwood, good job.
Well, it always just comes back to that thing of like,
Listen
you
to
know,
the Joe Rogan podcast.
it always comes back to that thing of like, you know, you can try and have control over all this stuff, but I feel like a lot of it's just kind of baked into the cake, and you
Yeah.
have to just deal with
Oh,
your
totally.
shit.
But I don't know if you could say that's on like. I get like your argument makes sense, but it still seems more likely to me that it's cultural than there's been like there is genuinely like anxiety genetically passed out. Like
It's totally passed
I
out.
reckon it's
it
totally
makes sense
passed out.
logically. I understand.
That's
But I'm
why
just
they
like,
ask
it
about
does
your-
feel not good.
Oh, is that
No, it doesn't
you
feel
got
good.
crazy in the genes? You're like, fuck, it's all going to hit me one
Exactly.
day.
If mental illness can be passed down, and like, you know, they can
Completely.
say sense of humors are passed. I mean, who knows?
So
It's
what's genetically wrong with every other race? Let's go through.
Tick 'em off.
insert white noise here for the next 30 seconds. Fuck.
well,
Should we go to the hat?
yeah, dude.
All right, man. You know the drill.
I listened to 2 episodes.
You've listened to 2 episodes
He's
of
in with
this.
a no.
There's 5 words
Drum
in the hat.
roll.
Brrrr. What is it?
Death.
Oh,
Jeez, Death
man.
with Andy Hastings.
Man, I don't know if I'm qualified to talk about such a heady subject.
It can be whatever your interpretation of it is. It could be dying on stage. It doesn't necessarily mean to be the death of the body.
Last thing I want to do is talk about comedy. yeah. Well, I think what Andrew Hastings had to say about open mic comedy in Sydney was particularly interesting this
Well, you
week.
do have a lot of experience with death on stage.
That's
Let's be fucking
absolutely
serious.
true.
What's the worst death on stage you ever had?
Man, I like fittingly Manly Boat Shed, hometown hero. Come back. I was maybe 18 months in. I was very bad at comedy, particularly so bad. 2 minutes into a silent bomb, got a heckle of when does the funny part start?
Oh.
Then a follow up of I thought this was supposed to be comedy.
Oh, shit.
And I think it's the only time I've done under time, but bailed on my set. I thought it was I can't, bye. Nearly quit comedy forever that night.
Was that
Wow.
was that the kind of death that made you not want to do it anymore?
It was the kind of death that made me feel like I did not have the skills to do it, period, and never would.
Yeah, right.
But I inherently did not have the skill set required.
So what made
Jesus.
you do it again?
Ben kind of sounds like he's just trying to convince you not to do comedy.
No.
You
Because
started with, you've died heaps on stage.
No, because me and
Why
Andrew,
are you continuing?
Our history began. Me and Andrew's
Yeah.
history began with me giving him unrelenting reams of shit whenever he was on stage about how terrible he was.
Oh, yeah.
And it always,
You're a good guy,
it always amazed me that he would keep coming back for more every week. That's what I couldn't ever get over because it was just brutal how mean everyone was. So I'm wondering what.
This room in particular, people were talking to the person on stage. You're making it sound like all the comics were heckling him in every club that he went to.
No.
Here we got the friend in hand. Boom!
No.
Elwood directly
Get that
side of
fucker
stage.
off!
It was a particular room. However, and I think you would agree with this, Andrew, no one got it as hard as he did.
Oh, I was
It was
I was
brutal.
the boy.
He
I
was
was
the
the
whipping
sacrificial
boy.
lamb.
Were you into it?
Sexually? No. In terms of whatever weird dynamic was happening in my head? Maybe.
Yeah.
Tell me I'm bad. Tell me I'm shit.
Maybe it was like because at that time I was not in a good place at all, real bad. It was actually there was something about having all those internal thoughts externalized,
Yeah.
At you.
but then kind of that took away their potency a little bit. I thought that's not just be
wow.
someone actually go you are fucking shit
Yeah.
to be Yeah, I am. But then having to be like, well, I mean, that doesn't really matter. That's like now that it's out there and there's no consequence of it. You know what I mean? It makes
I'm not pretending to be something I'm
Yeah,
not.
exactly. Kinda, yeah. Like,
I don't know if it was like the healthiest thing you've ever done.
no. No.
It made you a good comic.
I mean,
Thank you. I appreciate that, Ben. No, but why did I keep going after that death and others like it? I just really wanted to be a comedian. I wanted to be a comedian more than I wanted to be good at it, if that makes sense. And then I didn't start, and that made me not get good for a very long time. Then one day I was like, actually, I would like to be good at this. And started trying to figure out how to be good at it.
I reckon you should tell more of your personal stories on stage. I always think that every time you get up and you tell stuff, I'm like, I just want to hear about actual Hastings stories because they're always, one, gross, but very memorable and funny.
Last night, Michael Hing told me that because I accused another comic in the scene of being the most boring man I'd ever met. And Hing was like,
Great.
Hing was like, yeah, I mean, I believe that he's boring, but also like coming from you, I don't know what that means. Like, I don't, like you're such a fucked person. Like, I don't know.
The bar is low.
But you know, it's nice that he thinks I'm interesting.
Well, you are a fucked person.
Oh yeah, man.
But the fact that you're so comfortable with that and own it, and it doesn't come from a malicious place, it just comes from a comfort in your own depravity.
Yeah.
It almost cancels out being a fucked person.
Well, Chris and I...
Well, the hypocrisy is the problem a lot of the time.
Yeah, that's right.
There's nothing
No, but you
inherently
fucking
wrong
own
with...
it. Like, I mean, most of the time, like when I've talked to Chris about it, because we both always say there's like so many fucked people in comedy. I mean, like, you know, myself included and everyone else.
Sure.
But very few people own their shit straight off the bat. And you seem ultra comfortable being like, I'm a piece of shit.
Well, I just, like, why, who am I pretending for? Like, I'm just like, I know, like, I have insecurities and I hide things like any other person.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm, like, some insanely hyper-honest person or whatever.
So it's all been a lie.
But in terms of, like, whatever,
out.
whatever gross stuff I'm up to that week, whatever it is I'm doing, it's like,
It's usually sexual shit.
It's usually sexual shit. It's, and, like, but why?
No, but it's...
I don't know to be embarrassed about. It's like, I'm a
No,
fucking,
you shouldn't be embarrassed.
I think it's fun. I think it's
But it
funny.
is, it's fun and it's funny that you own it. So, like, this, I guess it's because people in comedy present as if they don't give a fuck and they tell the truth about everything and they're like, I don't hide, nothing hidden. And
yeah, and they're the ones harassing fucking open micers at the end of the fucking night, and I hate that shit so much.
Or they're sending seedy messages, or all the female comics are sending a message to each other like, hey, watch out for that one. Whereas, like, you from Day Dot, you're like, this is me.
Yeah,
I've always felt more comfortable in the company of grubs and degenerates.
Yeah, because everyone is.
Well, everyone is, abso-fucking-lutely. Everyone's a fucking got dirty thoughts and everyone's fucking weird and fucked up, and it's the denial of all that turns toxic. But what you see is what you get.
Yeah, man.
And I always, like, I don't have enough confidence to spend a long time with people who I don't think I'm seeing what I'm getting. Do you know what I mean? Because in my mind, it's like, well, you know, fucking, they say they like me, but I can't really be fucking sure. Whereas if I know someone is just who they are, you know what I mean? I'd rather someone just be a rude asshole to me. And I'm like, well, at least I know where I fucking stand, rather than this, like, you know, hopping back and forth wondering. Man,
I asked for a gig the other night. I asked to host like a room in Bondi.
Yeah.
I was like, can I get there hosting? And the dude replied to me, he goes, man, like, you can have all the spots you want, but like the whole emo thing, the whole weird goth sad thing, it's not going to fly in Bondi. And I like was like, fuck. Thank you so much for just saying that to me. I like respect you so much more now.
Yeah.
Like,
well, that's
I literally said like I'd really appreciate your forthrightness. I'll do all the spots you want. Like,
well,
great.
that's way better than being like, maybe in 6 months I'm kind of booked up.
Yeah,
or, you know,
and like,
or
of course, I say that to
me,
people all the time.
Yeah.
Do you have the balls to say to someone, no, you suck, I'm not putting you on?
No.
This is an interesting question to bring up with you.
But we've done the you're not there yet, haven't seen you for a while, maybe do a few crushes at an open mics and then we'll talk to you sort of thing. But no, we've also lied through our teeth about a lot of stuff.
Fuck comedy. Let's talk about actual death.
Yeah, man. Are you scared of death?
No. I used to be.
But you're such a hypochondriac. How can you not be scared of death?
I'm scared of disease.
But that's the ultimate symptom.
No, but I'm not scared of being. But I'm not scared of being dead.
An ultimate symptom would be a cool metal band.
Yeah.
Ultimate symptom.
Ultimate symptom.
And it's
with
because
Andrew
it's death.
Hastings. That should be your podcast.
Oh man.
Are you scared of death?
Yeah, terrified of it.
Are you?
Yeah, man. It just freaks me out.
Like you think about it?
I think about it all the time, and not as in like worried I'm going to die tomorrow. I'm like I'm going to die one day. Like the inevitability of it scares me.
Because like the first time that death, and I remember it like it was so profound. It was like I was maybe 19 or something, and I was reading about a guy who died in his early 30s, and in that. Up until then, for me, death had always been... Yeah, well, exactly. And up until then, death, in my head, had always been like, oh, that's just the thing you do after you've done all the things. You just die once you're old.
Yeah.
And then to realise, like, oh, no, this guy got taken out in the prime of his life. He was vital. He was a powerful person and just fucking gone.
Yeah.
And I remember in an instant going like, oh, you will cease to exist one day.
Yeah.
And... It felt like my brain was exploding. Like it literally was just like pins and needles in my whole brain. I was like holding my head, just like unable to fucking reckon with that.
Yeah.
No, that never fucking struck you.
No.
Really?
Cool
I always feel I'm not cool with it. Like I would be
assume there's not some
devastated.
like afterlife thing going on. I assume there's none of that happening.
No, not really.
Yeah.
I just think we've always, we always go back to the earth. You die and your bones go in the earth, or you get burned up or whatever you want to do, but you just return and other people live on. And it's just like, you were saying that guy died in the prime of his life. I mean, people die before that, like children die. Like I'm kind of like of the thing where I'm like, yeah, I'm in my 30s and I'm healthy for now. Like that's pretty lucky.
Yeah,
like so many people don't get this. I had a friend who passed away when we were in high school. She was like suffering from depression and she'd taken her life. And I don't know if that had an effect on me or not, but I remember feeling the finality of it. Like, oh, Alex is gone. Like, that's it. Like, she's gone. That's it now. There are, And I remember that was really heartbreaking because she was so young and wonderful. But in terms of, like, me going, I don't fixate it on her or anything. I feel like it's what happens and what will continue to happen. We're all going to die and then other people will live on and shit will change and the world will keep going.
Yeah, of course.
And,
That's all absolutely true, but still the idea that my entire universe is me in my head. That's gone. I'll be done. I'll be done. Don't you
kind of like? Isn't there any part of you that kind of sees that as?
Oh, of course.
Sees that as like a relief.
Yeah, God.
And I don't mean in the sense of like I don't.
But I can have conflicting feelings.
Yeah, of course. Like I don't. I want as much life as I can get.
Yeah, great.
I want to live for as long as I can, assuming everything's functioning and I'm not, insane or my body's failing or whatever. I want as much life as I can get, but the fact that there is an end point is of great relief to me.
Yeah.
To know that this isn't just a perpetual another day with no end in sight. Like the fact that that there is going to be a full stop on this one day.
That is true, and I'm glad that is true. And I wouldn't want to live forever. But I am real. Yeah, the idea of it's just gone. You just cease to exist. That's so fucking.
What scares you about it?
What like that means?
I
guess I'm very important. I'm so important that I need to exist forever.
No, of course, it's ego. I think that's what like true fear of death is. It's like I will not exist. Me. Because like you said, we all live in our own heads, and the universe is the inside of your skull. So it is the apocalypse when you die.
Do you ever worry that your consciousness will stay, but everything else will go?
No.
I've been scared of that since I was 8.
What?
I'll just be able to. I'll have no senses at all because my body will be gone, but my consciousness will just be. I'll still be able to think.
Are you religious?
No, not at all.
I
was.
What were you? What did you believe?
My family's pretty Catholic.
Ah.
Yeah.
So no spiritual belief at all, just dead?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not
dead
weird.
meat.
I'm not weird about it, but I'm not into it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
2 questions for both of you. Number 1, if you could know the day and date of your death, would you want to know?
We've talked about this. Of course not.
I would want to know.
Silly.
Why is that silly?
Because you're completely fixated on it. Someone like you,
it
would
wouldn't.
be horrendous.
No, I wouldn't.
Are you fucking kidding? You'd be sitting here going,
wait a minute, let her fucking pass judgment and scream and carry on.
60,000 hours till I'm dead. You of all people would fixate the fuck out of it.
I would fixate less knowing If I
Absolute
knew
bullshit.
that I had another 50 years, it'd be like sick, no fucking stress. If I knew that I only had a couple of years, it'd be like sick.
This is
Get
such
your
a
shit
crock of
together.
shit.
It's not a fucking crock of shit. I would love to know when I was like, you wouldn't want to know?
Countdown
You're
going.
a fucking
You'd have
pussy.
a phone
You're a real piece of fucking
telling
work,
you
seriously.
now.
Fucking shut up.
Bullshit.
Man, the company that
call
would
it
make
I've already
It's
got a fucking
bullshit.
clock ticking down. I just don't know when it ends.
It's so funny.
the-
No, I would never want to know. I think it'd be ridiculous.
No, it'd be great. You could get all your fucking shit in order. It'd be
Oh,
like,
what are you going to get in order?
it's like
Yeah,
knowing.
what do you mean by getting your
What
shit in order?
exactly
Okay.
are you going to get in order?
Are you going to let me speak without fucking talking over me?
Maybe.
First of all, it's like going to a party when you don't know what the fucking end time is. It's always I like knowing when the thing starts and when the thing ends and how long I'm going to have to be social for
You
before I
sound
can
so
go home.
fun to party with, man. You sound so
I used to be fun to
would love
party with, I'm
rap,
terrible.
dude. We'll go out, we'll hit the club, brother.
It used to be so fun.
Go
No,
get some
but I
chicks.
like to know parameters. I feel very comfortable when I know a thing will only go for a certain amount of time. So to know that my life, the only horrifying thing would be if it was like, 2 days from now. Then you'd
So,
freak
okay,
out.
you find out you die at 52, and then what?
Then what? How old am I now? 37.
See?
I'd get.
You start counting.
Well, of course you're going to start fucking counting when you first
Horrible.
find out. 12. So you got 15 years. That's not an insubstantial amount of time. You would just make sure that you fucking didn't. I think we do so many things that we don't necessarily want to do, but we do them because it's, even if it's something basic as like,
Consolidating your super.
yeah, consolidating your super.
You know, gotta do that. If you don't do it,
Exactly.
why would
Or
you
you're
do
going to
it?
rack up your credit cards.
Yeah,
Fucking why not?
totally. Why
Or
not?
just simple things. Like so many times I'll sit down to watch a
I
movie.
would probably never buy property if I was going to
Of
die
course.
at 52, yeah.
Sometimes like basic stuff, like I'll sit down to watch a movie and I'll be like, I really feel like watching a movie that I've seen 15 times before because I love that movie. But there's this old classic that I've never watched before
Yeah,
and I
right.
really should watch that. I think if you knew that you had a finite time, you're like, fuck it, I'm just going to watch the thing I want to watch because TikTok, which is how we should probably all be living anyway.
I've
but
never had to
Yeah.
debate what movie to watch that hard in my head.
I debate it hardcore.
I do not care that much about movies.
I do the same
movies.
thing.
I forget films.
I do the same thing, but instead of fearing my death, it's like, I'm like, man, if I watch this movie, finally I'll be able to participate in the conversation about this movie.
Yeah.
I won't be that guy at that party that time. Often that's the reason I'll watch a movie is because I got excluded from a conversation.
Oh, Hastings.
I was like, I haven't seen the movie, so I can't.
I haven't seen Iron Man 3.
Better go see Apocalypse Now.
Oh, great fucking
Just
movie.
I've seen Apocalypse Now.
best.
I love that movie. It's-
Sad list
Would
of
you
movies to talk
take
about.
the day and date?
So, okay, so I've figured it out. I would if I didn't know how, but I wouldn't if I had to know how.
How?
So if it was like at this time you will get hit by a bus, I wouldn't take it. But if it was on this day sometime you'll die, I would.
Really? See, the not
I don't
knowing,
wanna know
the
how.
not
I don't
knowing
wanna
the
know
how
how.
would fuck with my head even more, I think,
Yeah.
You'd prefer to know that you were going to get hit by a bus.
than just a random, like, you're just going to, because then it's like, well, I don't know. It's also fucked up,
What
isn't
happens
it?
if you
I
see?
would not wanna know.
Okay, what happens in that scenario though? You go, okay, you're going to die in 15 years, but the last 3, so it's cancer, and you can see that it was 3 years of cancer. Oh god, that would be rough,
I get it.
right?
Yeah, it wouldn't be, of course, but it's going to be rough anyway.
Not if you get hit by a bus.
Well, no, but finding, all right. Forget this question.
So I'm trying to form a suicide pact
This
here.
is the
what
most retarded conversation I've ever
No, it's
had.
not. Well, you fucking
You
bring up a
are-
topic. Yeah, you're being really fucking hostile tonight. What the fuck?
That wasn't what I was
Are you
gonna say. I'm
fucking
saying
kidding me?
You should just sit back
You
and
have been on edge since the moment you walked in here, mister. You need to chill the fuck out.
Fuck.
I'm
Man,
sorry.
all
I've
I'm
been yelled at
saying-
him for the last half a fucking hour, and he's saying I'm hostile
You
because
are
I don't
listening-
want to know when I'm going to die. Really?
Hostile.
Jen, you don't want to know when you're going to
Hostile.
die.
You have
You're
the
being
opportunity-
hostile because you don't want to count down
You're
the
being
days.
fucking really hostile.
You have
Fuck
the
off.
opportunity to listen to 2 titans of philosophy battle it out over the concept of death.
Correct.
And you're just sitting there bitching about it, Jen. How dare you?
I'm so
How
sorry.
dare you
I
not
know.
realizing your privilege
You
right
know
now?
what? On my final dying days, I'll be like, I should have listened to them. Those gods of death. Those fucking geniuses.
Shiva and Satan.
No, teach me. Teach me, man.
Well, he was about to teach you.
Oh my god.
The idea of knowing that I was going to walk into a fucking bus terrifies me, but the idea of knowing the day that I'm going to die, I'm kind of okay with that.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you would know.
If I didn't know the method, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's a dependent factor.
What's the maximum amount of time you'd take in life, assuming your body
Yeah.
wasn't going to fail?
10,000
Like, would you take
years.
10,000 years?
10,000 years.
10,000 years?
No.
That's not infinity, but it's a long time.
That's a lot of fucking time, huh?
Well, you just had because everyone else would die. You just live 10,000, not 10,000 lives. You'd live whatever that is divided by 100 lives. You'd live 1,000 lives or whatever. You know what I mean? You would do. You would just start again somewhere else. You go to another fucking planet in the future, dude. It's forever. Like,
There's that part of me.
you're not just living on a rock by yourself when humanity's extinct at the end. You go do something else.
How do you know?
I don't know. That's what I'm guessing. That's the plan.
Duh, guys.
Something will happen.
Yeah, something will happen.
There's that part of me that thinks, oh, it'd be great because you'd finally get so much shit done. You know, you could spend 100 years learning to paint, or you could spend 100 years reading all the great books. But then it's like, well, I think you'd just waste as much time as you do in your, say you've got 80 years and you're like, I'll get to it tomorrow. If you had 10,000 years, you'd be like, I'll get to it fucking next millennium.
Do you know do you know the Watcher from like Marvel Comics?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be like that, but with like TV shows and stuff.
God.
Just spend eternity watching just everything. Just have a huge collection of every piece of media and art and music and whatever. Just that could have all the art that could ever be consumed forever. I am stoned.
How long would you take, Jen?
I don't know. I'm not trying to be a dick. It's just, in all honesty, I don't think about death this way. So it's really fucking weird for me to be like, oh, how long would you live for if you could?
If you don't
I don't even think about it that way. Like, I think about death. I think about death all the time.
You'd
Because
hope
people
so.
die. Yeah, but I don't think about death in the sense where I'm like, oh, fuck, when I die, I won't be able to watch a movie. Like, that to me is so foreign. Like, I almost can't even engage with it. Because when you're like, oh, yeah, but, how long would you live if you could? I'm like, I don't fucking know. There's so many factors. Like, if every one of your loved ones is dead, you're not going to be fucking tripping on sunshine at the end of it. You're going to be lonely.
Maybe you would,
but if you live for 10,000 years, you would have a completely different perspective on finite life. So would you even get, the relationships would be completely different.
But would I even want that?
If you don't think
Do you know what I mean? Like, I think about death as a natural part of life, in as much as birth is a natural part, as is love and pain and all this other kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's all true. But I think it's as interesting as any one of those other ones. Of course it's interesting.
But what I'm saying is, I don't find it. I don't see the. Yeah, but that's okay. Like, I don't see the appeal in I find it hard to like engage with like, yeah, but if you could find out you're going to die, when would you? And I'm like, no. And that's kind of it. Like, I don't want to be like a dick about it, but I wouldn't. Because I feel like, the whole thing of like, oh, if you're going to die in this many years, we'd probably still waste the same amount of time on social media. You know what I mean? Like, the whole thing of you could read the classics and you could paint every day. If people got rid of fucking Twitter and God knows what else, which I think is only going to get worse in the future, you could do all that shit now.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying.
I feel like if you're like, I'd want 150 tight years because by then I could master. It's like that's not how that should. I don't think that's how it works.
I just think if you're not constantly thinking about how in a set amount of time that everything you've ever thought and dreamt and hoped and experienced, no one will ever say your name again, whatever, all that bullshit. If you're not thinking about that, or like, what are you thinking about? just like prime numbers and pistons. Like, what are you, just fucking machinery and trains?
No, if we're being honest, I feel like I have a heavy brain. I think a lot, and so I choose to think about things that are now.
Imagine choosing what you think about. Holy shit.
You can.
Well, I'm not that indulgent. When I have been that indulgent, it hasn't ended well. I've been depressed or I've been, I don't know, anxious. I get anxious anyway. But like today, I finished a book that I love and I've been thinking about the book. I would rather do that than think about when I'm gonna fucking die.
No, but you're talking about death anxiety as though it's a choice.
No, I don't think it's a choice. I'm just saying I can't relate to it.
Yeah, but
I don't think it's a choice. I think it's a natural thing for people.
You said I choose to think about these other things. So, but
I guess that's maybe not. Maybe I use the wrong words because Hastings was saying, "How do you not think about it?"
Yeah, and I relate to that.
And I organically don't.
Because I used to be exactly like you. I spent. There wasn't a day of my 20s I didn't spend obsessing over death and my own death.
You're right. You guys are old.
How
I didn't think about that at all.
That is. It never left. And what led to, I mean, many things led to being okay with it, but a big one was like experiencing complete ego death, where I did cease to exist, and it was a great feeling.
Yeah, but isn't that comfort? Like,
yeah,
the whole
that's
thing
what I'm saying.
You were saying like, oh, when you go, no one says your name. I'm like, yeah, but no one's name means anything now.
No, of course, but like the whole idea and memory, like everything that ever existed about you.
Of course.
Everything about it.
Think of how many people have ever been alive.
I know, it's terrifying.
Gone. Watch a silent movie.
Yeah.
Watch a silent movie from 1910.
Yeah.
Everyone in it is fucking dead.
Yeah.
Like, everyone is dead.
I mean, people have brought this up, but when you hear
watch a movie
tracks
from the
stuff
80s if there's...
all those laughs are from dead people.
Yeah.
So recording the fucking 50s
Yeah.
and shit.
Yeah, it's crazy. But when you think about like the amount of death just happening on a daily
of
basis,
course. Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
for all life on Earth, it's like I don't think the purpose of life is to be remembered forever. And even if you are remembered, it's not even you that's remembered. The memory of Jimi Hendrix or
of
Janis
course.
Joplin.
I don't mean
that's
it
not
in
who
like
they
I don't
are.
mean in
It's
like a celebrity fame way. I have no interest in that at all. But no, just the idea of like everything you've ever done or achieved or whatever,
Well,
like the things you contributed to.
We
Like,
talked to Dave Schmidt on this podcast, past Oinker.
yeah, he probably knows a bit more about thinking about death than I do.
Well,
but,
yeah, I
like,
mean,
he hasn't
he survived cancer.
no,
but-
I know, but that's what it'd cross your mind.
And he joked about being a cancer guru and how people always go to him for help. But a few things that he said have completely stuck with me, if I'm being honest. Because like achievement is overrated, and I totally fucking agree. Like
But it's not just
achievement
achievement,
is
it's-
overrated. Everything everyone does literally means very little. Like, I mean, there's a difference between like, oh, you have a job, you make money, you can afford to eat. You know, like those types of things obviously mean something. But people I adore who I'm like, oh my God, they are the most talented, brilliant mind and they've shaped the way I think about the world.
Yeah.
I could tell you their names and you'd be like, I don't know who they are. Like none of it, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, but there's also achievement. Like achievement doesn't necessarily mean like material achievement, just things that you
no, but any type. He was saying any, like it's
any good thing you do.
no, not
any
good thing, because
feeling you've had,
you can do
like-
lots of good things and you can feel lots of great things without having to attach it to achievement.
Hell yeah, you can, my dude.
Yeah. No, but you know what I mean. Like that stuck with me, and I think it's yeah. I think it's
Well, especially when you
Something
think about
to-
like time in like any kind of deep scale, and it's like, man, you know, all of human history is 5,000 years old.
Yeah.
You know, whatever. There's maybe 100 people that you could name off the top of your head from history: Winston Churchill, Shakespeare, Hitler.
Yeah.
And even that, it's like, you know,
Who cares?
it's just
on
like
a tiny timeline.
Well, yeah, and like, you know, in 1,000 years from now, the only names that'll be remembered are fucking Hitler
Trump.
and Shakespeare and Trump, and you know,
Yeah,
2
right.
out of the 3 were fucking assholes. It's like,
And Andrew Hastings being the best goddamn Canadian in the world.
but is that what it is?
Yes.
Do you think it's an ego thing? Like you're afraid of like
It probably
you not
is.
existing?
Not overtly, but probably on some level it is. Hey, here's the thing though. Do you think your hedonism is connected to your fear of death?
No.
see, my
I think mine
hedonism
is.
is connected to the opposite.
Really?
Yeah, I'm
I
with you,
take so
yeah.
much joy in stuff because I don't. No, I do care. Like saying I don't care sounds flippant and dumb, and I fucking hate having to check every word I fucking say. But like,
You don't.
no, but you know what I mean. You know exactly what I mean. Come on.
Yeah.
Let's smoke some weed.
Yeah, you should.
You really should.
But like, you know, not like accepting that it's going to happen and that everything's going to be okay can almost make you more indulgent. Can make it seem a lot like easy. Like it's taken. I mean,
I can see how
growing
that could
up,
be
it would
true.
take me ages to sit and watch a whole movie because I was so fidgety and anxious, and I didn't even know what felt like I needed to do, but I felt like I needed to do things instead of sit. Now I can sit and read a book for a day and feel fucking fabulous, and that's way more indulgent and hedonistic than being like, I've got to write a new play and I've got to apply to these festivals and I've got to
Yeah.
email this dick. Like it's like it does, none of it, you know.
Yeah.
means much.
The hedonism, like you say, it's like fixate. Your hedonism is a result of your
I'm just trying to
fear of death.
I'm just trying to wring everything out before I can get all the little
Ah,
good bits,
right.
get as much serotonin in me as like, you know
Till
what I
you
mean?
drain it all and there's nothing left.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't know how long much. I'm loving this gland up here. Better use it. Like,
yeah, better dry it out till it's a fucking husk. No, I think in the past I used to chase, like every time I indulge deeply, I get very death fixated. And I think part of my hedonism in the past maybe was connected to death, as in self-destruction
Yeah.
or stop the chattering in my head or whatever.
Like it doesn't matter anyway type thing.
Yeah, or just like I became very drawn to that thing I was talking about before, ego death. That idea that like, oh, my consciousness will just stop for a while, and I'll just be pure experience or whatever. Now I think it's the opposite, where it's like, you know, I feel I feel the finiteness of life, but it's not scary anymore. It's just like, oh man, let's just fucking have fun.
So you're telling me it gets better. You're telling me that I'll be okay.
Well, maybe not for you. I don't know.
Come on, man.
It has for me, but it's taken like it's been like
God, imagine being.
like thousands of hours of fucking thinking
But
about
that's
this
the
shit.
thing. It's also like
I can't believe I'm
YouTube
hoping to grow up like Ben Elwood.
I'm fine. I'm fucking great. I don't envy anyone else's head.
But also, like, I
I'd
mean,
be like Jen.
don't you ever have times where you're too fucking busy? Like, I've got so much shit that I'm doing that I'm enjoying, or people that I want to see where I'm like, I have like half an hour. I can choose to think about death or I can finish a book that I
But
like.
again, you keep talking about it. You keep using the word choose.
Yeah, you're not choosing.
People aren't
okay, so but
choosing
if you guys
this.
aren't
It's just
choosing,
the way
what
your
is
head
the
is.
reward? What is the reward?
There is no reward.
It's just the thing I'm thinking
Well, for
about a
me,
lot.
in the end, like I read this, it's definitely a book that you should read in your early 20s. If you miss the boat on it, it might be a bit naff after that age. But in your early 20s,
Name
it's
it, baby.
fantastic.
I'm out.
It's a book by Carlos Castaneda called Journey to Ixaland.
I don't know.
And it's
Sounds like something a shit hippie ex-boyfriend would read.
it's a great book.
You should learn about your soul.
It's fantastic. And it's it was this sociologist in LA in the 60s. His name was Carlos Castaneda, and he became friends with this Yaqui Indian shaman
Cool.
in the Arizona desert, Don Juan. And basically Don Juan, and it's a series of books, but Journey to Ixaland is basically the one all about how like your death is next to you at all times. Yeah, well, and that's terrifying to the main character, Carlos.
I saw Donnie Darko. Isn't that enough? Isn't that?
No, I think that you would. I think that you should read this book, Andrew. It's about he has this constant. He's constantly reminding Carlos, going, "You have no time for this tantrum. You have no time for this depression. You are not guaranteed one more second on this earth, and your death is always on your left shoulder." And when I first read that in my 20s, that concept of like was terrifying.
Yeah,
and it's like, I don't want to live like that. And there's one point in the book where Carlos is like screaming at him, going like, I don't want to live like that. I don't want to live in a headspace that's constantly obsessed with my own mortality or thinking that I'm on borrowed time.
Yeah.
And Don Juan's answer to that is, no, but it's not, it shouldn't be a crippling thing. It should be an empowering thing. It empowers the moment to realize that you're living on a finite clock.
Yeah.
Or A, you don't do the thing you don't want to do, or B, you bring more passion to the thing you are doing, all this thing. So
I did first semester philosophy. I understand the idea of action being motivated by death.
it's done in a lot more poetic way in this book. But anyway, in my 20s, it didn't work for me. But now that is very much how it is for me.
Sounds like a very beautiful book.
It's a beautiful book.
Yeah.
Like in the past, I used to, whatever, I'd be at a party or something and I wouldn't be having fun or something and I would indulge that part of me. Just go like, oh, well, you'll just have fun at the next party. Whereas now it's just like, well, there might not be a next party. So, and I'm not saying this like I'm an old man, but, fuck man.
Hey, baby, there's always the next party. You know what I'm saying?
So it sounds like it's just sort of telling you to be mindful and be in the moment.
Well, it's just saying before my grandparents died, I was incredibly conscious of them being old and being basically having
other people's death scares me. The idea of losing a family member petrifies me.
Have you ever had anyone that you were very close with die?
I've had family members die, and friends, but immediate family, no. And that scares me more than me dying, like completely.
My grandparents were like, intensely close. Very much like parents.
Sure.
And I had that pathological fear all through my teen years of like, they're going to die. And it became paralyzing because, especially with old people, there hits a point where it's like, you've basically got a terminal illness.
Yeah.
Like it's like the clock is ticking.
Yeah,
you can see it. You can see them kind of turning grey and going
even before they get died, it's like, oh, you're now different.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
you're shutting down.
Yeah.
And I became very aware of that. And it's kind of the Western mentality to not lean into that, is to like, no, la, everything's great. What it did for me was it made every moment with them so potent and so fucking, we were there with each other. And so when it finally happened, it was awful, but it wasn't anywhere near as awful as I imagined it would be.
Because you'd prepared mentally for it.
Yeah, and I'd sat with it and just like not run from it or not kind of immediately just shut that idea out.
That type of stuff petrifies me.
Yeah.
So I feel like I know I talked about choice before and how annoying that sounds, but I feel like I make a conscious choice to try and have, I'm aware of the relationships I have with older people in my life that I love. I'm very aware of how I treat them, and I'm aware that health can deteriorate and all that kind of stuff. Like I'm aware that I could lose them one day, and the idea is petrifying. Like I remember when my grandfather passed away, my mum's dad, and I remember seeing how much it shook my mother. And she's like a very strong woman, and it was so heartbreaking even now thinking about it, so that type of stuff, the idea of losing a parent or something like that or a sibling is like that shit scares me more than me dying because I feel like
Yeah.
Well, when you're dead, it's not like,
you
there's
make
almost
choices, but
there's like, I don't mean this in like in an emo fucking like.
you can
do.
say
Way.
it. Yeah, Hastings
Yeah,
is
no,
saying
no,
it.
but that's it might be how it's not
Our
how I
emo
meant.
boys in.
But there's almost this thing like when I hear about dead people, it's almost like, not lucky, but like, they did it. They did it. It's all
No,
done.
I don't think
no more
lucky.
worries. But no, not. I don't mean lucky as in like, but just like.
Ben briefly played
pressure's
bass for
off.
Fall Out Boy. He was
No, just you're all done. You did it. You're done.
What pressure
done
do
and
you
dusted.
feel?
It's not the pressure.
Yeah.
It's more just that kind of like no, it's the pressure of being alive. Just being alive is fucking intense, man.
But do you feel like I'm
It's
not trying to say
exhausting.
this to be patronising because I'm anxious all the time, and yesterday I was anxious as fuck and barely functioning.
Hell yeah.
But do you feel like it's Do you feel
Oh, yeah.
like
I've been fucked this weekend. It has been real ugly, dude.
But do you feel like this is just a symptom of anxiety? Being like you guys, like you were saying, you're
I
like
think there's probably a link.
No.
yeah, like you were saying, you keep saying it's a choice. It's not a choice. It's like, okay, well, if it isn't a choice, do you feel like it is a symptom of just not being able to control that point of worry and stress, which could be linked to anxiety?
I think they probably come from the same place in my brain.
No, I don't. I find being and this is not this is not fucking like red flag or anything. I don't want to be dead on any level, and I want to be alive for as long as I possibly can. But and it goes back to that thing we were talking about earlier of like.
Now you're talking my language, baby. Hello.
That thing we were talking about earlier of like you can, you're glad that there's an end point. You're glad that it's not forever, and. I don't know. I don't know how to articulate what I'm trying to say without sounding like it's like, oh, fucking dead people are so lucky to be dead. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah, they get a nice
But it's
rest.
like, well, just like, there's a bow on it. It's just like, full stop,
The
done.
finality,
It's done.
yeah.
It's done.
yeah, it's
And,
nice. It's life.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
start,
yeah,
you're born, you grow, you pass away. Hopefully, at a lovely ripe old age, if you're lucky.
Have either of you ever seen someone die or been around a dead body or anything?
Ooh.
Only my nonno when they had it like.
I used
shown
to
at the
fuck this
funeral.
chick who worked in a crematorium.
I thought you were about to say something very
Jesus
different.
Christ!
Really?
Yeah, dude.
And what, did you see a dead body?
No, but she would tell me about it. It was pretty cool. I just wanted to let you guys know I fucked someone.
There's the Hastings we know and love.
Pretty sick.
She'd have an interesting relationship with death.
Yeah, she was hot.
That's how you can tell.
She's a prison guard now.
Fucking intense woman.
Yeah.
Cra-
Yeah, dude.
Oh my god.
I watched my grandma die. That was pretty fucking
Oh, I in the room.
locked eyes
Oh.
as she died.
Dude.
Yeah.
Does that mean you are your grandmother now? Did you just go in?
That's what happens. Yeah, they blow out the spirit into someone else's face.
That's wild.
It was simultaneous. It's
Yeah.
apocalyptic. Like it's full on. But it's also strangely beautiful. It's like
Go on.
It's life.
well, it's just like this like
It's life.
eject soul now. Pff, like it's like it was honestly, and I know I'm extrapolating on it because it was a fucking traumatic, horrendous thing to watch. So the human brain constructs a thing to make it not as bad as it was. But for me, it really did feel like eject soul now, and she just popped out the top of her head and she
That's
was gone.
so interesting.
And it was just and like I watched it, like I watched her go from the moment of realizing what was happening, and like this wash of fear
Yeah.
in her eyes of like, oh, here we go, like we're about to fucking go on this ride, and then it was just serenity, and it was like it was over. It was
right.
over. It was over.
That's kind of nice.
Well, her and I,
Yeah.
I was with her before.
Sad but nice.
I was with her, so she'd been taken to the hospital just to go on respiratory stuff, and I was told like, don't even bother coming. She's fine.
Yeah.
But me and her had a
Connection.
we had a very like I don't know what you want to go psychic connection or whatever. We had an intense. We knew each other.
Yeah.
And I knew that today is the day, and so I went to the hospital and was holding her hand and we were talking. And I kept saying in my head like if you need to go, just
Yeah.
My grandfather had died just over a year earlier, and they'd been married for 50 years.
Yeah,
and-
yeah,
You know what I
right.
mean? It's
Yeah.
like
Sometimes it's like, oh yeah, it's time.
well,
Like,
how do you wake up
Where's
next
your
to
other
someone
half?
for 50
Yeah,
fucking
yeah.
years and then they're just gone? Like,
Yeah.
of course.
Of course.
And it was funny.
So
like
sad.
he was very he was very cynical, like I am. Me more like him. And so she was always this ray of sunshine and positivity, and she kind of caught that cynicism in the not in a nasty way, but just in that like getting the joke of life way. Life, you're a real motherfucker. So we're in this room together, and then she just goes, "Oh, you need to step out. I need to use the potty." And we were just laughing about her having to squat on a fucking bedpan. And then I just turned around and and I looked back and she was in like cardiac arrest, just fucking shaking. And like I'm looking her in the eyes, and it was like, and nurses rush in, and it's chaos and everything. You just know, like it was like I watched her shoot out the top of her head. She's gone, and then I got to spend I don't know how long, maybe an hour with her body after it was all done, and it's like it's fucking very, very strange, and you really can see how people over the ages believe in a soul and believe in a spirit. Because I was lying in the bed with her body, and this is a woman that had been like a mother to me. Sure. I'd known her, I'd loved her, everything, and she's there. But like I was like poking her in the face when I was a little kid. I used to sleep in her. When I was a little kid, I used to sleep in her bed, and in the morning I'd wake up early, and I'd wake up by like poking her in the face, and she'd be like, and like ha 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 ha.
Sure.
And I was just like it was just surreal, like I'd lift up her arm and it would go down. I'd poke her face. Like I'm not saying I was digging into her face, but just just saying goodbye and stuff. And there was just this like everything that you loved about this person and everything that made this person is just gone, and it's like being with a cicada husk.
That's so sad.
So
it's beautiful, but it's also like
it's very beautiful.
It's kind of nice,
It's beautiful.
I mean, I feel I had the opposite.
I'm not comfortable enough in my masculinity to use the word beautiful.
No, that's okay. That's all right.
I had
very nice.
Get a tattoo of it.
I had the opposite experience with my grandfather, where he died, and I was.
You were real angry.
I was too freaked out to go and see the body. I never did, and you realize how much closure there is in actually bearing witness of the thing and being with the body and understanding, that person is gone. And it's so fucking strange. That changed my perspective on death hugely.
My closest experience with death is like, I'd almost like contradicts that almost. My experience was very different, maybe why I think about it differently. My uncle died when I was 9. He died quite young, like in his 40s. But like the last time I saw him, it was like 2 weeks before he died, and he was so sick. He had cancer and AIDS.
Oh,
he was so sick. Like he was so fucked up.
Cancer of the AIDS.
Yeah, well, he had stomach cancer, but there was like 6 weeks between diagnosis and death because of the AIDS.
Jesus.
Like, it was fucked. So I was like, we were real close. We had tickets to go to Europe together when he got diagnosed. Like it was fucked up. But yeah, last time I saw him, he like. All his hair was gone, obviously. Yeah. All he was drinking was milk because it was all he kept, and he threw up the milk a bunch of times. Chemo was fucking with him. He looked terrible, lost all his weight. Looked horrific. And there was just this real of like, that's not the same guy.
No.
Like, it's not even close to the same guy. And then at his funeral, like 2 weeks later, there was a photo of him, like, like they do. It's a photo when he was healthy and stuff, obviously. Yeah. And it's like, no, that's not even the same guy. It's not even like, so it's this thing. Like the way I was like, he died before he died. Like he definitely, like he was done. Like, and like you could like just from looking at him and talking, like he knew it. He was like he was done. Like
See, I find this stuff way more hard, like way more difficult to even talk about now than the idea of talking about, do you think you're going to die, blah, blah, blah. Like the idea of people dying before they die. I know what you mean.
And just how everyone reacts to those people as well.
Just
everyone
the pain and the love. Not even that people flee. Some people don't. I mean, some people do. You're right. People bow out because they're petrified. But just like, I mean, and it is beautiful in that it's like full circle. But the pain of seeing someone you adore leave.
Fade. It's so,
that stuff is like, yeah, maybe that's why I don't like to think about it, because I don't think about it for me. I think about it for people I love. And the idea of seeing them disappear is pretty scary.
Oh, there's something, I mean, it wasn't a human, it was a dog, but the dog that I lived with for the last few years.
Yeah, even animals, it's sad, let alone a fucking human.
Animals are the worst.
Well, him and I, like, we had a deep, profound spiritual connection. I haven't loved many creatures more than that dog. And he was very old, got to like 16. And the last time I saw him, he just wasn't. Yeah. You know what I mean? And in that moment, I was just like, just go. Because it's, exactly. It's like you're this like bizarre shadow wind-up toy version of yourself that's nothing of you is there, and you just look exhausted.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like that thing of like death isn't the worst thing that can happen to you.
Totally.
It's that suffering and it's that disease and it's just being trapped in your fucking, in a failing shell.
Anyway, so come to Powerbomb Comedy Friday night.
I know, it's bumming me out. It is. It is
what
Man,
else?
I got a cat for the first time recently. I'm so fucking excited. I'm so in love with
You're
this
a
cat.
family man, Andy.
It's crazy. It is. It's genuinely me.
That cat's gonna die one day.
Man, I think about it every fucking day, Ben.
No,
I think about it
you don't.
constantly. I think about how he's gonna die and how sad I'm gonna be when he dies. I've made this prediction before. I'm calling it right now. Me and my current partner, we will get divorced when the cat dies. I genuinely think that'll happen. Like,
don't you think that
planning ahead? You're a planner. You're a big boy now.
We got another 19 years or whatever. That's when we'll get divorced.
But don't you think there's something to that idea of being conscious of the finiteness? And you know what? You don't even. Sorry,
it makes me fucking hug him harder.
Yeah.
You're a good dad, Andy.
Thank you.
No, I was going to say, I think the reason I feel like the way I do about it, where I'm like, it's going to happen and it's okay when it happens, is my mother talks about death and has all the time. Like, she's just like even when I was really young, she'd be like, oh, when I die, I'm going to make sure the money just goes to my children. And I remember being really young, like too young for her to even talk about that, and being like, don't say that. And she's like, it happens. People die. It's fine. Yeah. Like her whole attitude, as much as it infuriates me, is always like, well, when I go, like I was out with her and my sister the other day, and my mum, like we're having coffee and lunch, and she's like, I've updated my will just to make sure it's just for my children. Well. And I go, oh, well, if anything happens to me, you can have it, Mum. She goes, I don't bloody well want it. Give it to your sister. Like she's just like so down with talking about death as just like, I've got to go to the shops and then I might die. And so like it's just so chilled out.
I updated my super beneficiary the other day. I did that the other day.
It's that Eastern European efficiency.
Possibly, but it's always been like that. Like for as long as I can remember, it's been like that. So I think that's had a little knock on to me where I'm like, yeah, it's going to happen. So I'm not going to think about it too much because I'm not going to control it. It's just going to happen. So,
would you want to be...
Yeah.
Would you want to be conscious, like present in your death?
I don't think anyone is that much. I mean, bits switch off. It's how like you switch off, and you probably know you're switching off.
My own funeral. I would.
You're such an egomaniac.
Absolutely.
Like, I want to know who's there.
I want to know so fucking bad what they say, man.
You have your funeral before you die.
No, it won't be the same. It won't be the same. It won't be the same.
What everyone will say? No one's going to get up at anyone's funeral. Yeah. People get up at monsters' funerals and go, "Oh, he was a great man."
That's what I want to hear. That's fucking crack to me, dude. That's all I fucking want.
You really are a sad little fuck. All of your death fear.
It's completely maniacal shit. It's like I want to watch them. So if they don't fucking say nice shit, I'm gonna come back and haunt them. Like it's like pain.
I want to know who my real friends are, dude. I want to know
people who hang out with you now.
Nah, those cunts are all lying to me. They're all stab me in the back. They're all using me for some bullshit that I haven't anticipated.
They're riding your coattails to the heights of fucking comedy success. You fuck. You idiot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jump on the bandwagon of Hastings.
Man, death's surreal. When my uncle...
I've heard that, yeah.
Death's surreal, man.
Death's surreal. When my uncle died, it was the weirdest thing. He died a couple, 5 days before Christmas or something, right?
Brutal.
And so in our family, I was raised by my mum, but I lived with my grandparents when I was little.
Yeah,
so
cool.
We're all very close and stuff. But my mum's one of 6 kids, so I'm very close with all. I lived with all of them when I was a kid. So there's sort of 7 kids.
Yeah.
In a way, effectively. Anyway, we all do a Kris Kringle for Christmas because there's too many presents to buy. There's too many people, right? And we did the draw for the Kris Kringle for Christmas before he died.
Oh, brutal.
And he went down just a bit quick, a week or two quicker than they thought, right? So then the day of his funeral, we all had drinks at the wake. My parents aren't, my family's not a big drinking family, really. That's more my dad.
That surprises me.
My dad's a big drinker, and this is my mum's side.
There you go.
Yeah, no, that's where it comes from. That's where that is. No, so we're all there, but everyone's drinking pretty heavily. My nana won't even admit that her son died. But both my grandparents are still alive. It was real hard on them. Real tough day. Everyone's there. People have been crying while everyone's there. It's the other night, everyone got real drunk. We're all sitting there. There's this weird beat of silence. Someone just goes, so do we want to redo the Kris Kringle now? Or how do we just give to charity if you had him? Because like you can't not get something from him because that's not fair on people who didn't have him. So
Life must go on, man.
man, they're $50 presents, man. You get 4 of them. It's like it's a lot of money.
So funny.
Well, I mean, humor helps with death too. Like,
No, but it was also like we redrew. Like we did it.
Oh,
like,
God.
We actually redrew Chris.
You're like, he's
Kringle.
gone.
We
Screw
had to
it.
do like who's already bought presents for their ones so you can make sure that those ones stay. We had to like we had to use an Excel thing to figure out how to do it. Like
An
But it's-
Excel thing. Yeah.
But it is true.
Spreadsheet.
Like, have you
I
guys
know what a spreadsheet is, Andy.
have you guys ever seen 6 Feet Under?
Yeah, dude, I love that show.
The greatest show of all
So
time.
good.
The greatest show. Everyone
It's
talks about
very, very
Game
good.
of Thrones. Watch
Nah,
6 Feet Under.
6 Feet Under.
But I remember that the opening episode of that show is about the death of the father of the family,
patriarch,
the
yeah.
patriarch of the family,
Hey,
and
that's
it's like
patriarchy, I say.
it's like
No.
it's the first 48 it's the first 48 hours after he dies. And I remember the first time I watched that, it was before my grandparents died, and there's a scene where his 2 kids end up in the supermarket just shopping aimlessly, and I remember at the time going, "Oh, that's so fucking
That's
unrealistic."
absolutely what happens.
That's exactly what fucking happens. When
absolutely.
the day my grandpa, 2 hours after my grandpa died, I was sitting on my cousin's couch smoking cones, watching Kill Bill. I mean, we weren't watching Kill
Yeah,
Bill,
but
going
you're
but
like-
it was just in a daze,
Yeah,
just like
totally.
I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I was a pallbearer for my uncle. So my other uncle, who is only 7 years older than me, so we're very close in age, very close to this uncle, the living one, right?
Yeah.
We were both pallbearers. And we were both, like, he was probably my age now, sort of thing. And we're just driving to Macca's. I was like 19, we're just doing a Macca's run together. And I go, hey, have you ever been a pallbearer before? And he goes, no, have you? I'm like, no, of course not. Like, he goes,
Yeah.
man, I was like, I don't know, man. Like, do you think, like, he's going to be heavy? Like, and he just goes, hey, man, he's not heavy. He's my brother. And it's just like, he just made like a dumbass, terrible pun joke. Like, what a shit joke. And it was like, yeah, we're going to Macca's. Like,
Yeah.
it's just like normal. We're just cracking jokes going to Macca's. But
course.
there's this weird looming thing.
Yeah, it's weird. Life goes on.
Yeah. But of course it does. Like, what else? Otherwise,
Yeah, what else is going to
there
happen?
would be no civilization or anything ever.
Yeah.
Death is permanent and constant.
Yeah, man, it's real, man.
Well, I
Hey,
think
man. Hey, here's to tomorrow.
Here's to living life to
Hey,
its fullest, guys.
If you've taken anything away from this Sydney Open Mic podcast,
Have you heard
that
that?
you need to live your best life. While
You
you
know
have
that
it.
great stand-up joke where he's like, yeah, they say live every day as if it was your last. The one thing they don't tell you is, what happens if you don't die? Your liver's fucked, you're bankrupt.
Hell yeah, dude.
so funny.
Oh, man. When was the last time you guys fucked?
About 12 hours ago.
Me?
Yeah, yours
for-
is a less interesting
It was
answer.
Not for a long fucking time. I feel
Chris
dead
at
for...
work today?
Half day.
Speaking of death, I feel dead from the waist down recently, so...
Oh, yeah, Ben's.
I can give you some pills for that, dude.
It's not even that. It's just like a lack of interest.
Oh, okay.
Complete lack of fucking...
Do you think it's his age as a man?
No, I think it's depression.
Brutal.
No, I don't feel like I'm depressed. I just
Really?
feel like
It's just not-
feel like it's like...
How old are you, like 34, 35?
37.
Oh, right, underestimated.
It almost just feels like, wow.
Man, your age is actually almost catching up to your looks. Like,
Thanks, man.
It's leveled out.
You're,
Like-
you're a real fucking asshole.
You look
this
younger.
This is a guy that told me the other day, you're right to wear a hat in public. You motherfucker.
I found a photo of you. I was going through old photos a
No,
couple
no,
days
it's
ago.
terrible, it's terrible.
Yeah. You look far younger now than you did like 5 years ago.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
Like,
you
far
do.
younger.
It's true.
You've
Oh,
stopped
yeah.
aging, Ben.
That goatee
Thanks.
you had when you had that fucking goatee and like you were full bald.
Yeah.
That was, man, I can't believe anyone fucked you at
I
that
love
stage.
that this is coming from you, emo boy. Like, you're like
I
I
am
can't believe anyone
very
fucked you.
desirable to a lot of people.
To a certain,
A real
to a certain
niche
Look,
demographic.
to 1% of the population, they're big fans.
hold,
you know?
holding
But you could
on.
say that of anyone. You could say that anyone
Exactly,
on Earth
exactly.
has a 1%
And not enough
contingency
people
of
act
fans.
on it. Not enough people.
No, it's true. It's true, it's true.
Like, he's
It's
tapping
true, it's
into his
true.
potential.
Look, unless you're a really fucking whatever, cliche, good-looking person, you know, you've got to fucking tap into your fucking niche.
Totally.
cult
Yeah,
market.
yeah.
man.
Get your crowd.
Absolutely.
Go for gold.
Yeah. I just wish I put the energy I did with the, sex audience with the comedy audience. It'd be good if I
No,
could have
you
tapped
fucking
into that.
don't, man.
No, why would I?
Every time we do a gig together, I'm like, whether you're on or not, I'm like, hey, you on? And you're like, oh, there's this chick I'm gonna fuck. Like that's
Oh, you're
like you don't even
so
care
gross.
about the comedy aspect. You're like, oh, that fucking. I was gonna say something horrible. That beautiful
That
woman
piece.
over there. I'm going to that piece.
that piece.
That piece of work is mine.
I don't know how
not a
someone
slur.
can be so adorable and likable and at the same time just such a reprehensible
Such a degenerate.
fucking
That
grub.
exact instinct is exactly why I'm getting it sucked 24/7, 365, baby.
Fuck.
All right, let's end this.
Man, I can't wait to be dead.
Thank you, Hastings. How can people find you? Oh, they should go to Powerbomb. Do you want to tell people?
Yeah, go to Powerbomb Comedy Friday nights at Staves Brewery. Go to Wayward's Comedy Wednesday nights at the Bank Hotel on King Street in Newtown.
I'm doing that this Wednesday.
Hell yeah, Jen Carnivale's doing it this Wednesday. Ben Elwood's booked in for a bunch of stuff because little fucking grubby gig pig looking to
What's
try.
wrong with being a little
No, not at all.
gig
I
pig?
respect it so much more than what you were doing before.
What was I doing before?
Not gigging.
Oh, okay.
Get on. It's all about that stage time, baby.
Thanks.
And also listen to my podcast. We'll just tell your mother we ate it all. It's a podcast about teen sex comedies with Rose Piper and Jamie Kirk.
Yeah.
Yeah, mostly we talk about my dick.
Oh, fuck. Don't listen to We'll Tell Your Mother.
No, listen to it.
Man, it's good shit. We'll get you both on. It's gonna be great.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks, Hastings.
Thank you.
Hell yeah.
I'm at Ben Elwood 11.
Oh, yeah, I'm at Jen_Carnivale. I thought we were going to do it at the beginning, Ben.
Oh.
I'm at
This
Andrew.
place.
I have a Twitter too. I'm at Andrew Hastings. I got in early.
At Andrew Hastings. Hit him up.
Thank you.
Slide into my DMs.
Ew.